is Module 4, Designing and Implementing Training Programs Using Open Educational Resources, which we will contextualize in the time of COVID-19 pandemic. But of course, it doesn't mean that you can only do this during COVID-19 pandemic. What we are hoping really is whatever, as I always say during our webinar sessions, whatever it is that you will be learning from the training program, this is something that you can bring back to your classroom instruction, to the training, to the conduct of your training programs, even after the pandemic. So siguro mag-iiba lang yung konteksto, may mag-iiba dun sa ecosystem noong nung elements ng ating ecosystem ng training program, but definitely the basic principles, even the topics, even the topics, we are hoping that you will find them useful. Okay? So, okay. So we have only 2 objectives. So first is a review of the topics we discuss in this training program. For our objective number 2, it will be a discussion on how you will be doing your re-entry action plan. So if you will recall again, for this training program, and as implied in the title of the training program, what we are really doing here is a training of trainer. We are really expecting that towards the end, at the end of our training program, you will also be able to develop a training program, even if you are not an expert in the particular field. Halimbawa, on the topics that we have discussed, we will be, because we already have different materials, different content in the training program, then what you will just be doing is design a training program and look at the existing materials for the open educational resources that we already have compiled for the content of your training program. And of course, we are also hoping that at least you were able to master or became interested in at least one topic that you will include in your training program. Okay? Kasi I know that somehow there may be at least one topic that interests you and that will really motivate you, interest you to study it further, look for more materials, and really develop a lesson plan for a particular topic which will be included in your training program. Okay, so yun yung gusto nating makita, or what the learning outcomes that we hope to accomplish towards the end of our training program. Okay, so first, for our first objective, as I have mentioned, I have listed here the 4 modules, but we will focus on the first 3 modules first. So like module 1, we discussed the flexible teaching and learning model, revisiting the mode of instructional delivery. So here, we look at the different modes of instructional delivery, which we can do, or we can consider in this time of COVID-19 pandemic. And again, depending on the context in your respective areas. So you were given the different choices, the different modalities, the different descriptions, and what each mode of instructional delivery requires, especially when it comes to the format of the instructional materials, which will also be dependent on the level of access to the internet by your students. And if face-to-face session, even for a limited number, will already be allowed in your area. Module 2, as I have mentioned, there are many topics in Module 2. So we have discussed the synchronous and asynchronous sessions, what exactly should constitute, what digital tools and platforms should you use when you do your synchronous and asynchronous sessions. And of course, because of that, we also need to discuss, or it was discussed in one of the webinar sessions, the different options, the different digital tools, technologies, platforms, which you can use in this mode of instructional delivery, the flexible learning pathways, as we are calling it. There were also in Module 2.3, we also discussed some strategies, tips on how we can design our courses, from the design and from the delivery of our courses in this mode of instruction, so that we can keep our remote learners engaged and motivated. So there were several strategies that were discussed in that module. And the activities, the learning activity for this particular module also required you to reflect and integrate the different strategies into your lesson plan. In Module 2.4, we discussed the online presence and how important it is and how we can integrate it also into the design of our courses right from the time that we are planning it, we are doing our lesson plan, up to the time that we are actually teaching it, including the giving of feedback, connecting with our learners. So those strategies were also discussed in detail. Module 2.5, there was a discussion, you discussed with our resource person, the assessment. What assessment mechanisms are more appropriate when it comes to flexible learning, the technologies, etc. So those were, and we really emphasize on this because we know that for many of you, there is this major concern on how to facilitate assessment in this mode of instruction. For Module 2.6, there was a discussion on how, what are the types of learner support that we can provide, given that our learners are not with us in the classroom, the different services to support our learners so that they will be able to complete the courses. And for Module 2.7, there was a discussion on the learning communities, that the social aspect of learning in the flexible learning mode of instruction. So those seven modules, sub-modules or topics, section, we may want to call them, they discuss, these sections discuss the different aspects covering or under the course delivery, the things that we are more concerned about when we are actually teaching in this mode of instruction. And then in Module 3, this was the last session that we've had, we talk about open educational resources, or OERs. We talked about how we can develop the different models of developing open educational resources so that we can maximize their impact, how we can use them in designing our lessons, and how the different platforms which we can use so that we can share those open educational resources, especially the ones that we have developed. Of course, we also discuss Creative Commons as an option for licensing the work that we are doing. And the discussion on OERs was anchored on the competency framework on open educational resources, which was developed by UNESCO. We also look at the different global initiatives, the regional, and of course, the local initiatives, what we have in the Philippines, and possibly how we can contribute to the local and regional as well as the global initiatives. So now, for our reentry action plan, ang ating, kaya nga ang title ng ang title nitong module na to is we will now be designing our training programs. And I put here in the time of COVID-19 because what I'm hoping to happen also is that after this training program, you will also be able to conduct kung ano yung kailangan na training programs na kailangan na ng inyong mga universities. Okay? Kasi kung mapapansin ninyo, posible that this situation, the flexible learning mode of instruction, teaching and learning will still continue kahit hanggang second sem. So we are really preparing for the whole academic year. And possibly also for 2022, academic year 2022, posible rin na kung meron mang pagluluwag, which is actually happening now, we will still have to consider the flexible learning pathway. No? So, because of these changes, posible na magkakaroon ng iba-ibang pangangailangan ang ating university when it comes to enabling our teachers, our fellow teachers, enabling the other staff of the university. So tayo na po ang gagawa noon. Kung napansin ninyo, hindi naman po lahat, not everyone from your university was able to participate in our training program. So nirecommend lang po kayo ng inyong mga university officials. Pero there is also that expectation that after this training program, you will do your own training program in your university. And we will see how else we can help you, depending on the design, depending on the re-entry action plan that you will be submitting as a requirement of this training program. Okay, so when we talk of the training programs in the time of COVID-19, of course, we are talking of online. Yun nga, unless na sa inyong lugar ay allowed na even the limited face-to-face session. But still, since it is not yet 100% face-to-face, then we project that there will still be the online component of whatever training programs that we will do, probably until early next year. Okay? So we'll have to make a decision as well. Anong klaseng training program ba yan? Kung may online yan, asynchronous, synchronous, ano ba? So we go back to the modes of delivery. We talked about the modes of instructional delivery in our module 1. This time, we will also be talking about what mode of delivery shall we be adapting for our training program. And on the same manner, it will also reflect the kind of training program, ano yung ituturo natin do sa mga fellow teachers natin. Kung ganito pa yung ano natin. So we are thinking of the mode of delivery for our training program, but at the same time, we are also thinking, ano yung pwedeng ituro natin? Ang mode of instruction ba na dapat nating ituro sa mga fellow educators natin ay ano na? That's why we really focus on the flexible learning pathways, so that whatever is the modality na applicable na, yun yung i-adapt natin doon sa training program natin. Diba? And then, although we are saying na our focus really are the teachers, of course, you may find it necessary to train also the other staff of the university, especially those who will be providing support to our learners. The technical staff, if you are doing online learning, definitely there will be the technical staff. So, ano yung mga naging karanasan ngayon na pwedeng gawin nating basis, which we can use as basis in designing our training program. So the technical staff, those providing academic support to our learners, answering their emails, answering their queries, talking to them, calling them, asking them how they are. If you feel that they are not submitting assignments, they are not present in your session, etc., they may need support. So there may be some staff, naranasan din natin yan ngayon, sabi nga natin, minsan 2 weeks into the semester, may mga nagda-drop na, di ba? But have we actually inquired? Why? Di ba? Bakit sila nagda-drop? Is it something na pwedeng magawa ng paraan? Is it something that the university can address? Is it something that we teachers can address? So in determining those reasons, probably our academic, some of the staff of the university will be able to help us. So what kind of training are we going to give to them? Okay. Our librarians, our guidance counselor, our registrar, the office of the university registrar. So even this sector, even these groups of the university may have to be trained as well. Especially if we are thinking of bringing back to the classroom instruction some of the things that we have learned in our teaching and learning process, in our teaching and learning environment, the way we designed our courses during this time of COVID-19 pandemic, we may want to bring them back to our classroom instruction. So in so doing, the whole university will have to be transformed. And so are the other staff at the university. So they may have to be trained as well. Okay? And of course, the students. Diba? Sometimes we also provide training to our students. So what kind of training? Is it on digital literacy? Yung mga usual na seminar na binibigay natin sa kanila, nagli-leadership training ba tayo sa kanila? Diba? So even for our students, we may want to think about the kind of training programs that they may need, or we usually do during the time of before the COVID-19 pandemic. Although at this point, I hope that we can really focus on the training on flexible or remote mode of instruction, because as I've mentioned, this is something that we may have to really continue preparing even if the semester has already started. Kasi what really interests me at this point is that we have started the semester, no? We have started the semester, but there are still requests coming in at UPOU, requests for training. And we thought that those concerns have already been addressed. Kaya as early as March, we really designed many training programs, because at that time, when we were still preparing for the start of the semester, we thought that those topics were the ones needed by the teachers, by the university officials when it comes to strategic planning. So we implemented those training programs before the start of the semester. So now there were still requests coming in. But I realized also that it could probably be because now that they are into this mode of instruction, now that they are doing it, they are now starting to identify other challenges. Okay? So, ngayon lang nila nakikita, paano nga ba natin ito gagawin? So, may mga tuloy-tuloy pa rin na requests na dumarating sa amin on topics that we thought were the needs before the start of the semester. Okay, so ganon. Because in the succeeding set of the training program that we will be doing with CHED, it will be on different topics already. Ibang set na. It's not the preparation. It's no longer the preparation. It's really looking into how we are doing things now and looking more into the future. And what are the things that we still need to know? So it's really more of that. Really more of that. Even probably doing research in this mode of instruction, and even from our practice, applying the different concepts and our practice, even theorizing from that, because that's exactly what we are doing as a university. We need to contribute to the knowledge as well. So baka yun na yung mga susunod na topics na iaano natin. I haven't yet made a decision on that, but we will be announcing it very soon. We will be announcing it very soon. The set of topics that we will be focusing on for our next training program. So, sa madaling salita, itong mga topics that we are discussing now, very high likelihood that we will no longer be discussing it, no? Unless there is another level of the discussion. Okay? But given that we believe that we have trained the trainers from the university, then kayo na po ang magko-conduct doon sa inyong mga universities. Medyo konting ano na lang ang ibibigay namin, monitoring, just so that we can also report to CHED what is happening in your re-entry action plan. Okay? So different topics, of course, online teaching and learning, other academic topics, you may want to look into that. But again, our focus, our interest is how the training program that you will plan on online teaching and learning. Okay? So initially, of course, before you can even develop, so we're now talking of the re-entry action plan, because what we really hope to see from your end is your plan to conduct your own training program in your university. But before you do that, before you can develop your own training program, there has to be an assessment. What exactly is needed by my university? If I am talking of training my fellow teachers, what exactly is it that they need at this point in time? At this point in time, what exactly is it that they need now that we are into the semester already? So there are, of course, you know all these things on how we do how we assess what exactly is needed. Of course, there is what we call the pool or the conduct of the training need assessment. We will ask them. We ask them what exactly do you think you need at this point in terms of the training program. So it can be done through a survey, etc. Right? So you know the methodology, or it can be a push. You make a decision, just like what we did. We make a decision on what topics we should push. Probably because many are not yet aware of what exactly what comprise the elements that comprise remote teaching and learning or flexible learning, right? So given the assessment of the current situation, that's yung sinabi natin na face-to-face instruction is no longer possible, then we have to go remote teaching. So based on that general assessment, because it's happening all over the country, so we decided on the topics. Which should comprise the training curriculum. Because probably if we will be asking the teachers, they probably still don't have any idea what exactly is it that we need to know. Diba? And that is somehow evident, became evident when every time that we ask, actually we ask in a way, and the response that we got was writing modules. That generic writing modules. We don't even know if they have a common definition of what a module is. Okay? Writing modules. So, laging ganon, writing modules. So, when we ask the question, ano po ba ang gusto nyong matutunan? Ano po ba ang training na kailangan ninyo? So, writing modules. Nitong bandang huli na lang, lumabas yung how can I keep my students engaged? Huli na lumabas yun, di ba? Sa una, ang talaga nasa isip, writing module and assessment. Assessment, laging yan, assessment. Pero yun nga, there was no mention of other things which may also impact on the learning process of the students. But because we already know that and we've been trained as teachers in this mode of instruction, isinama naming lahat yan doon sa curriculum na ang ating training program. And then nagdagdag pa kami, like yung OERs, diba? So we added those things because of the current advocacy on open education. So that's why we included those topics. And as I have mentioned during our last webinar session, it was also backed up by research that there are still a significant number of teachers who are not aware and are not using. Probably because they are also not aware of the advantages that they can get. So isinama rin namin yon even without the teachers asking for it. If only to raise the awareness that this is an option. This is an option for our teachers, then we included that topic. Okay? So yon. So, or you can have a combination. You observe and you consult. Okay? So ngayon pa lang, isipin ninyo, reflection question. Okay, so given the situation in my university now, given the level of knowledge and skills, given our experience now, ano kaya ang kakailanganin na training program ng aking mga kasamahan sa university? Okay, so yun yung isang question natin. You now start thinking, reflecting, or even base it on your own experience. I-base nyo rin sa experience ninyo. Nagtuturo kayo, you have undergone this training program, di ba? So ano yung mga experience ninyo? Ito ba ay pwede ring dalhin doon sa inyong sariling training program sa inyong university? May mga topics ba halimbawa na mas kailangan bigyan ng emphasis? So again, that will depend on what your colleagues in your university would need. Okay? So training curriculum development. So nakita na natin, ano ba yung mga kailangan nila? So let's now develop the curriculum. Okay? Let's now develop the curriculum. So let's set the training set the training learning outcomes. Ano ba yung gusto nating makita sa kanila? So like for instance, in one training session that I am doing, my learning outcome, and I think, I'm not so sure if some of you are also participating in that, especially those who universities who are offering programs on agriculture. Ano? So I'm now also conducting a training program for the reviewers of the licensure exam for agriculture. Ganon. Because the review for the licensure exam will also be done online. So in their case, there is a different learning outcome. Because for me, what I hope to see in them after my training is that they will be able to design the review, the lesson that will be asked of them to handle. Kasi di ba pagka review session yan, kanya-kanya yan ng topics na i-handle sa review. But for them, their outcome is for their reviewees to pass the licensure exam. So we have different learning outcome. Ako ang learning outcome ko para sa kanila, sila ang learning outcome nila para sa mga estudyante, yung sa mga magre-review nila, na maipasa nila yung exam. Ako kailangan ko lang makapag-design sila ng kanilang review session, ng materials nila, ng kanilang mga, makonduct nila yung review session nila efficiently and effectively. Ganon. So kailangan ma-set yun. Kung ano yung gusto nating mangyari, the learning outcomes that we hope to see at the end of the training program. So you have to determine that. And then of course you develop what will be the learning activity that will demonstrate the achievement of the learning outcome. So for instance, in the case of this training program, what we are asking you at the end of the training program is your re-entry action plan. Hopefully, depending on what you will be putting in there, which will be guided by the format that I will be giving you later, will reflect what you have learned from this training program. Fingers crossed, okay? And then, of course, you will have to identify the topics because that will be part of your training curriculum. So, ano-ano ba yung i-discuss natin? Diba? Ano yung i-discuss natin under this training program? So, like, halimbawa, in this case, in the training program that we have now, so what I did was look at the context, and then I identified the different topics that I feel at this point in time, because remember that we have conducted this, we started September already, right? And at the time, many of you have already made a decision. Ano paano ba namin gagawin? And in most cases, probably also, for most of you, you have started preparing your materials already. And that is the reason why every time I am discussing, every time that I have a webinar session with you, my suggestion is for you to reflect on what you did, and try to make an improvement. Diba? Kung nakapag-prepare na kayo ng mga learning materials ninyo, ng inyong study guide, ng inyong course guide, etc., mga learning activities, then reflect. And based on the input, ano pa yung mga pwede nyong gawin? So, depende on what we feel is needed at the time that we will be doing our training program. So, there has to be that assessment already. And for us to make a decision, what exactly will demonstrate that we have achieved what we have set as our learning outcome. And then again, we identify the topics that will be the input to the training, right? And of course, the training duration. If you have noticed, for this particular training, because we know that we will be implementing it at the time that many of you have already started your semester. So we really cannot do it every day. We really cannot do it just like what we've been doing before. Nung nakabakasyon pa lahat, no? The semester has not yet started. But this time, we know that the semester has started, and all of you have your teaching load. You have courses to teach. Then we also have to take that into consideration. Kaya if you have noted, our schedule, I tried to make it a regular twice a week, 10 to 12. Something like that. So there has to be that regularity para ka rin nag-a-attend ng klase so that you will also be guided in terms of how you can manage your schedule. So that is an input. When you think of the training duration, you know how you are doing your courses now, the teaching of your courses, then you will also be able to manage or determine the duration, how frequent, and the length of webinar session or each module if you will be doing synchronous session. Okay? So that has to be part of your plan as well. Okay. So preparing for the conduct of the training program. So there is the part of our preparation is also the training management aspect. Diba? So identifying the resources needed. So if we're going to do synchronous session, do we have a platform? Does the university have a platform and can we use it? Diba? That's the first question. Like for instance, in the case of this training program, so may sabay-sabay. May sabay-sabay na activities eh. It's not the only training program that we are doing now. Just for me alone, just for the training programs that I am handling, I have 3. And then the other offices of the university, they also have their own activities, which require the same platform tools that we are using because they are all university account. So we have to identify and manage that at the university level. If we are using the university Zoom account, then we have to take into consideration the other schedule, those other units who will be using the same platform. So it will help if right from the start, we will already be identifying the digital tools and platforms which we will need for the conduct of the training program. And if we're going to use a learning management system, just like what we're doing now in the training program, then what will that be? And like for instance, if your university is already subscribed to a learning management system, then is it the same learning management system that we're going to use? So those things have to be decided right from the start as part of the training management aspect. Mobilizing resources. Are there other resources that you will be needing? So like for instance, in the case of this training program, because of the bulk of the activities, then there have to be markers, there have to be evaluators. So all this, there has to be the technical team who will be assisting. And there is also a set of production team because all the materials after the session, after the webinar session, all the recorded video lecture will have to be edited and uploaded for others to use. Like for instance, for you to use. If you will be talking, for instance, in your training program, if you will be talking about open educational resources, then you will just get the material that we have there. So it has to be edited. These materials have to be edited so that you can also use them. So there is the team as well. So I have to look into what the resources that I need, the manpower, and even the funding. And of course, the digital tools and platforms, as also indicated here in this number 3 item. And of course, the other aspect is, I have mentioned this, identifying the topics that would comprise the training curriculum, identifying the resource persons, the experts. So if there are 5 from your university attending this training program, then probably you can assign, and I suggest that you assign a topic for a member of your university, a staff of your university, who are also participating in this training program. Okay, so identifying and assigning, contacting and contracting them. We may not be able to pay them, di ba? Pwede hindi natin, kasi kung wala talagang resource, wala talagang budget, ano magagawa natin, di ba? But in most cases, being a resource person in the training program that we are doing, di ba, can be included by that person under public service. So they also need the contract, they need the certificate of appreciation, all the evidence that we can give, the documentary evidence that we can give, so that that person can also claim it as part of the public service that he or she is rendering, being a staff or faculty of our university. So pwedeng ganun din, ano? And when it comes to promotion time, those documents will really be very useful. And then, of course, we have to propose it to our university management that we will be doing this training program, etc. And somehow, if there will be resources that the university can provide, then we can request for those resources. Okay? So training content development. So in here, I have mentioned that for each topic, you will be identifying who will be the resource person. And this is what we are suggesting. Because you may say that, oh, I'm not an expert on this particular topic. Building learning communities, for instance. Of course, I have learned something. Pwede mo sabihin ganon. Pero we are also suggesting that for the resource person who will be assigned to develop the topic, then you look at the learning resources available, the open educational resources that will form part of the lesson and which can provide the content to the topic that you are about to teach. We have to note that in the time of COVID-19 pandemic, it is highly possible that our training program will also be online. So and even if it is the blended mode already, that there will be the face-to-face session, then it will also be useful for us to use the resources that are already available online. And there are many. I have put here as an example the materials that are at the UPOU Commons. Okay? So all the video lectures, all the webinar sessions that we have conducted in this training program and in other training programs. Siguro sa isang topic, baka magkakaroon kayo mga 3-4 na mga video materials, different people talking about it. Like learner support, for instance. Learner support. You can probably find a video material on learner support, at least four materials that I can recall, and probably from 2-3 different resource persons. Okay, so you can check that, and you can see which part will be useful, which material will really be very useful in your own training program. So that's the suggestion. Instead of you developing the content, then you use the content of the materials that are already available as open educational resources. And what you will be doing as the resource person for the particular topic is just to develop the learning activities that will contribute to the learning outcomes, okay? And will somehow provide the training participants with the opportunity to apply what had been discussed in the lesson. So yun yung magiging role ninyo as a resource person. Maghanap ng material do sa topic na naka-assign sa inyo at mag-develop ng mga learning activities that will contribute to the learning outcomes. Okay? So yeah, I think that's my last slide. So I put here congratulations because our re-entry action plan is a very simple one, and actually what you will really need, and I would like to believe that it will be very easy for you to complete your re-entry action plan. Okay.